If you've been training jiu-jitsu for any length of time, then you're probably aware that making it to your purple belt is one of the hardest things to do in jiu-jitsu. So in today's video, I want to break down what that process is like and why it's one of the hardest things to do in jiu-jitsu. How's it going, everyone? My name is Chasen. I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt, and I've been teaching and training now for over 14 years. So if you guys like all things jiu-jitsu, it's probably a pretty good channel for you to subscribe to. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Also hit the bell icon. That way you're notified whenever the latest video comes out. I was able to get my purple belt after training for about 4.5 to 5 years. I spent roughly almost 2 years at white belt and then 2.5 to 3 years at blue belt. Not only does it take a long time, just in the sense of a time and years purposes in jiu-jitsu, but you have to spend a lot of time on the mat training. Purple belt is not just one of those belts that's just kind of given out. We can make the argument that blue belt has a lot of different meanings, and blue belt could be self-defense blue belt, it could be a competition blue belt, but purple belt is not quite like that. Like, everyone is pretty universally decided, like, okay, if someone is a purple belt, they are very serious about jiu-jitsu, and they have kind of this wealth of knowledge that's way more than the above average person. Even if they're just like a hobbyist purple belt, they usually still have quite a bit of information, and they have some very developed skills as a jiu-jitsu practitioner. Now, I remember back whenever I first got my blue belt, I was the happiest person in the world, because when I was a white belt, I could never imagine myself being a purple belt. I was like, man, those guys are way too skilled. I could see myself being a blue belt because it was just one click up. But being a purple belt seemed like the furthest thing I could ever accomplish in the world. And it seemed even further once I got promoted to blue belt. I was like, great, I was so happy. And then I was like, okay, well, what do I do now? So I want to share a few things with you guys to potentially help you out. So one of the biggest things to kind of overcome in your blue belt journey is to know what's expected of you, or to know what knowledge you need to be able to seek. Personally, the way that I look at this is, if you're a blue belt on your way to purple belt, you are wanting to be a curiosity, you want to be an explorer, but you're not like a world explorer yet. Because I was a smaller grappler, what I needed to focus on to turn kind of some defense into offense, because I was training with guys who are always a lot bigger than me. When I tried to kind of go down the exploration route of being very offensive and trying to like impose my will, it just seemed like nothing really worked for me quite yet. I really hadn't developed those skills, but I started having a lot more success at playing off my back and turning like escapes into offense relatively quickly. That is just with me. I'm just giving you guys an example of what I found. Some of you guys might find being offensive a little bit sooner at blue belt might be a better thing for you than being too defensive. For me, I had to kind of find that little plan. I had to find those things that really resonated with me. So it was like I was exploring, then I started to kind of come back in toward the end. That's one thing that I struggled with a lot for myself at blue belt, was I didn't know which areas I needed to explore. You can be curious, but just be careful about going too far down a rabbit hole. Another thing that seemed really tough for me was trusting kind of the process of jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is a big trial and error issue. And so what happens is that maybe you're being curious and you're exploring the world, and you kind of found this thing over here, and then whenever you go and try it in training, it fails miserably. There's a lot of that. You're gonna try the move of the day that you maybe just learned, or that your training partner just showed you, or from the instructional that you just learned, and it's gonna fail absolutely miserably. This starts to build a lot of self-doubt in you. You're like, man, am I actually even good at jiu-jitsu? I've bought all these instructionals, I come to all these classes, I'm learning all these things, and nothing seems to be working. It seemed very hard for me to trust the process because I never saw the results. And this is where kind of the time pays in. Now, if I could go back and if I had a crystal ball and I could tell my fortune, what would be a lot better is if I had a way to kind of narrow down that trial and error process a lot quicker. It would be great if I had more of a framework to kind of work within, that I could try these few things and try these few things, and not just be kind of left on my own to make those decisions. That would be really great. I think that is what makes a purple belt very unique, because if a student's willing to kind of endure that and just kind of go through that hard time and know that it's going to suck and know that they're going to experience that frustration, when they come out on that other side, you've probably become more aware about your jiu-jitsu. You've become more aware about what works for you and what doesn't work for you, or what areas you seem to have success in, that you did a lot of this self-exploration. That's a big reason why it takes a long time to become a purple belt. Blue belt, I can just say, hey, like, I want you to know these basic moves, these basic positions, and these basic problems, essentially. But purple belt is not like that. Purple belt is a lot more complexity. You might be working on escaping the mount, and then they do some crazy way to keep the mount, or they do some way to stop your mount escape that you've never seen before. That variable of that problem has now changed. And so until you can start to be exposed to all of that and you can see all that information, it becomes very hard to figure out that solution. So if I could go back and if I could find a way to narrow down that process a lot sooner, man, that would have just been like magic gold for me. So let me know down in the comments below, if you're not a purple belt yet, what's been one of the hardest things on your journey so far? And if you're a purple belt or higher, what was one of the hardest things about you becoming a purple belt? Because your information really does help. A lot of people read the comments, so comment down below. Now, another issue that I kind of had even with my plan was not having what I call that shiny object syndrome. A lot of the times I would say, okay, I know these are the things that I need to be working on because I kind of identified them. I've become more aware. I had my trial and error process. But man, when I see my buddy over there doing that really cool thing, I really want to go do that. And I think a little bit of curiosity is very important. I'm not discouraging that curiosity, but you can get very shiny object syndrome. It was hard for me to kind of be disciplined and focus on something for more than maybe a couple of training sessions. Now I'm a lot better at it because I trust the process. I know that if I spend the time investing in it, even if it sucks for 2 or 3 weeks and I'm not happy with it, time that I spend on it will pay off because I've seen that success. It can feel like that you're just wasting your time and that what you're investing in right now is not going to pay off, but I promise you it will. And if you can figure out the things that are best for you right now and you can go through that trial and error process a lot quicker, it's just going to even be better for you. So once I finally made it to that purple belt, I really felt like I had this new refined skill of understanding more about my jiu-jitsu. I understand how to kind of evaluate myself. I kind of developed this level of awareness about my jiu-jitsu that was extremely helpful. But when I look back on my journey now, that was probably the first time that I really had kind of that revelation or that thought. And I think that's a big reason why it takes so long to become a purple belt, is because it's not only just about learning more stuff. It's kind of peaks and valleys and ups and down roller coasters and self-discovery and exploration that goes on. There's a lot of things that start to happen in that part of your jiu-jitsu journey. So one thing that can be extremely helpful for you guys is if you work with like a coach or a training partner or someone that can really kind of help you make these decisions. If you have a coach who says, hey man, I think that you're way over here in left field and you're exploring this part of the world that you don't need to yet, or that's not as valuable, why don't you kind of come back over here? They can really help you course correct. Or so if you're operating too much in the box or too much into your hometown, the coach can say, hey, I recommend you go explore maybe this area or this town first because it's going to help benefit you. That's a big reason why I even have my online coaching program for my students, is that I can help them figure out that process. I can help them kind of cut down and close that gap a lot sooner than they could on their own. It would have been amazing if I could have had somebody kind of pay attention to my jiu-jitsu that much. You still have to take ownership and you're still going to have to do the work and show up to class and be disciplined and do all of those things. But having someone who can kind of help you manage your jiu-jitsu is an invaluable asset. And it's a way that you can start to really kind of accelerate your growth and get better a lot faster. If you guys are into that kind of stuff, make sure you go down below. You can apply for my coaching program, or you can grab my free acceleration guide. You can find that down below too. Both are going to be amazing resources to kind of help you along that journey or that path. That's going to wrap it up for this video. As you guys can see, there's a lot of things that go into becoming a purple belt. That's why it takes a long time, and you need that time or that attrition to be able to help you, because you have a lot of things that you have to accomplish and a lot of goals that have to happen around that purple belt time frame. Hopefully this helped you guys out. It gave you a little bit of insight. It gives you kind of more security because you now know what to expect, and kind of when you hit those frustrations or ups and downs, it's all part of the process, and just know it's working. Everything's working in the background. That being said, I will see you guys in the next one.